Your most precious video games banned. Visa and Mastercard, payment processors, part of the SWIFT payment system, the global infrastructure of finance, have decided you are not allowed to buy legal content. And so we are seeing the beginning of a new war involving censorship. And that is video game platforms where they sell the games and people can log in and there's community are removing popular adult games because Visa and Mastercard said so. This is one of the biggest threats we have seen to personal liberties in, maybe like 10 years. Now, don't get me wrong. The politics stuff, of course, matters. Immigration, economics, all of that stuff's really important. But this is the same thread we all pulled several years ago when we saw similar things on Patreon, the banning of Carl Benjamin. There was a man. He was on Patreon, and he had challenged Islam. It was his thing. He got banned. The reason for it? According to the company, and it's been a long time, so let me just put those caveat out there. It's been a long time since I've covered this, so you're going to have to fact check me on this one. They were told by Visa and Mastercard, the payment processors, if you don't ban this man, we will delete every individual from your site, basically. We will shut them all down. Your company will go out of business. Now, we've called this out several times, and it's happening once again. And unsurprisingly, in the video game space, where I guess y'all gamers are always just going to be the first line in the culture wars. There's a company called Parallel Economy that launched specifically because payment processors were going to these websites, to Patreon, to video games, to whatever it was, and saying, ban that person. And then for no reason, you'd see an individual just get nuked. So let me tell you how serious this threat is, and then we'll go through. We got big developments here. There's a bill that could stop this, and we need to be calling this out, same as we did all those years ago. For those that are new to this, there's a lot of young people, because this is like 8 years ago we were going through this, 8 years. So you're out there right now, you're 18, you're 19, you're 20, 21, whatever it might be. You were a young teenager, you weren't following this when it was going down. But Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, now Lotus Eaters podcast, was banned from Patreon. And their attitude was, if we do not remove this person, our banks shut us down. We call it debanking. And this is the terrifying reality of the chain of censorship. No law was passed. Nobody broke the rules. But a payment processor said, we deem it so. And who is this person? Who is the individual? Who is the committee? Who is the group? Who is the company that made the decision to start banning content? Someone up the chain. Here's what we saw those years ago. And again, this is for those that are just now in this fight as it kicks off and is getting pretty massive. There's a chain, and every link, you go further and further back, and there is a risk of the link breaking. That first chain link, that's your website, that's your portal, that's where you buy it. And you're looking at it right now saying, they just banned my game. Why? As you move backwards, you'll find there's servers. You've got AWS, get Amazon Web Services. You've got domain registration. You've got Google directories. You've got payment processors. If at any point, any one of these companies in the back of the chain decides you are acting against their wishes, you are gone. We are all beholden to the threads that are behind us. The scary thing about this is none of this is illegal. The reality is, now, some of you are going to say, I don't want adult games on these portals. Fine, pass a law. Get Congress to act. If you want to change the fabric of this country, if you want to ban guns, if you want to ban games, whatever, it's called going through legislation. Having ideological zealots controlling the strings of finance to manipulate the public is one of the most nightmarish dystopian realities. And the worst thing is, it's hidden from us. All we see is platform says rule violation. And we go, what rule is broken? And we were told this time and time again for 10 years. We were told it's a private company. They can do what they want. Lies. Does Steam or any of these other companies actually care if there is a legal product that you can purchase that people like? No, they don't. Now, if there's a legal product someone could purchase and it is shockingly offensive, I got to be honest, Steam still allows really offensive content. They say we're a marketplace. If it's legal, you can buy it. We've got our rules, fine. But what people need to understand, we may have largely defeated wokeness, but there is still an attempt at ideological manipulation, and it will never go away. Now they're saying that there's an activist group that's pressuring payment processors to ban content. And Steam just says, guys, they've not publicly said this, but this is what happens. Because I've talked to these CEOs. They say, if we don't ban one thing, then you'll lose all your games. I say this, play the game of chicken. Steam and every other platform should be telling these payment processors, I dare you. Ban every game. And then look at every game studio, every gamer, every individual who loves this industry, esports, they will annihilate you. So stop being cowards. This is what bothers me, okay? These platforms are like, we have no choice but to remove these games. You know, you can keep them. And you can tell these payment processors, you are starting a war you will never win. But here's the story. The war over credit cards censoring games is just getting started. Free expression advocates are flooding Visa and Mastercard call centers hoping to break through. And it's a good start. It's a good start. Make sure these companies know when you go to war, when you try to effectively change the fabric of our country by making things unpurchasable by your ideology without consensus, without democracy, I mean that somewhat figuratively, then you're going to get a backlash. You're going to get a backlash. I say this, there are companies, they will wrong you because they're hoping that you as a single individual can't do anything about it. Well, you know what? Sometimes they crash into somebody who actually can. And when you got everybody lining up and saying, you know what? We are going to war over this. Maybe these companies will get scared and actually back down. Kotaku, of all websites, I'm citing them. They're going to mention this Martinez, who had called to file a complaint, assured in each case that his frustrations with Mastercard, whose payment system he uses through PayPal to buy games from Valve, were being recorded as part of his file in the company's system. The call rep said that the higher-ups are aware of the situation and they're trying to find a solution for it. The call rep sounded courteous at best, though I imagine they probably have to be given that they're still dealing with a customer. I was polite as I can be the whole call. Martinez is part of a growing backlash to Steam and itch.io, purging thousands of games from their databases at the behest of payment processing companies. Australia-based anti-porn group Collective Shout claimed credit for the new wave of censorship after citing a write-in campaign against Visa and Mastercard, which it accused of profiting off of rape, incest, and child abuse. Some fans of gaming are now mounting reverse campaigns in hopes of nudging Visa and Mastercard in the opposite direction. This should not be possible. This should not be allowed. And I don't think there should be any leeway for Visa and Mastercard. You know what you can do, guys? Get Discover. I'm kidding. I don't know. Let me tell you. They got you by the balls. This is the power of monopolistic force. Visa and Mastercard, they basically run payment processing for everybody. They get fees on everything. And if they decide, it happens. And you're thinking, how is this possible? We didn't break any rules in these games. It's legal content. So long as it's age-gated and verified, what's the problem? Brave New Coin says, payment giants force Steam to remove games, sparking censorship concerns. Concerns? It's happening. And I'm going to stress this again, guys, because this has happened before. Back in the 2010s, for those of you young whippersnappers that don't know, I told the story just briefly, but they banned Lauren Southern, they banned Carl Benjamin, and Patreon promised us they would not do this. So imagine this. You're Carl Benjamin, right? This all gets started with Gamergate 10 years ago, longer than 10 years ago. And the meme was, we just want to play video games. But they were shutting us down, shutting down the conversation, and telling you that you had to buy the games they wanted. They called them walking simulators. Lauren Southern got banned on Patreon for political activism. And they said, well, it was offensive. It was dangerous. She was in the Mediterranean, and she was wiggling a flare at a trafficking ship. It was a boat that was human trafficking. And they said, no, you can't do that. So they banned her. There was an instant backlash. This has nothing to do with your business. How could you decide just to ban someone's income? And that was terrifying. And there was a threat of mass exodus. The CEO said, we're sorry. We will never ban anyone again without due warning and notice. Carl Benjamin was on a live stream arguing with people, and he used a racial slur somewhat sarcastically or ironically. He was calling white people a racial slur to make the point that what you call other people is actually yourself. But he used the slur. It had nothing to do with Patreon. It was a small stream with barely any views, and Patreon nuked him overnight. Without warning, without any chance of redress, and we were shocked. Now, when I talked to the CEO, the story was, it's Visa and Mastercard. Not specific, it's been like 10 years, but the story was basically, look, man, if we don't just do this right now, everybody loses their account. This led to the launch of Parallel Economy, which we still use at timcast.com. It's a payment processor that will not censor you, will not shut you down. And Dan Bongino, Rumble, they're all involved in this stuff. So I recommend it. Right now, there is a bill under review that could prevent credit card companies from blocking adult games on Steam. Now, I'm gonna level with you guys. I'm not a fan of adult content. I think porn is bad for people. I think it's very, very bad for people. I think it's very, very bad for young men. But I don't believe the solution to these cultural issues. I don't especially think censorship solves the problem. I think we need cultural reinvigoration. I don't think that's a word, but it is a word now. Reinvigorating. We need to inspire, and we need people to decide for themselves. I think it's bad, and I think it's fair to say a lot of people understand that it's bad, but it's legal. I don't think adult bookstores should be shut down. I don't think strip clubs should be shut down. I think that if someone makes a legal product, it's fine. And if anybody has a problem with those products, whatever they may be, get an act of Congress passed. That's how we change things in this country. We vote on them. So be it this, or be it, I don't know, guns, another great example. You can't just arbitrarily decide that something causes you, it makes you upset morally, so you can take it from someone by force. And you know, it's funny. It doesn't usually seem to be the right that is doing all of this stuff. Now, in this regard, maybe, because I don't know, what is this group? This is what is it called? Collective Shout. It's a feminist group, an anti-porn feminist group. Surprise, surprise. You know, we've had many times people saying that Gamergate 2.0 or whatever, and everyone's always trying to find out what it is. This is probably the closest we've ever actually been, with feminists trying to get adult content banned because they don't like it. Now, there's a bill. Check this out. Kevin Kramer is a senator. He's from North Dakota. He introduced a bill in the congressional record on February 4th, before Steam had even amended its guidelines, which seeks to place restrictions on certain banks, credit unions, and payment card networks if they refuse to do business with a person who complies with the law. This is the anti-debanking stuff. It's not even about whether you're buying adult content. It's about in general. We have seen this problem for so long, we can't let it go. If passed, this bill would protect against banks being able to impede otherwise lawful commerce and thereby achieving certain public policy goals. In other words, credit card companies would no longer be able to refuse service to developers so long as what they are selling is legal, which means that companies like Visa and Mastercard would no longer be able to demand storefronts such as Steam and Itch remove adult games due to pressure from political entities. This could even encompass the aforementioned controversial games, as Kramer specifically notes that the bill would ensure that persons involved in politically unpopular businesses, but that are lawful under federal law, receive fair access to financial services. It's unclear when the Senate and the House of Representatives will vote on the bill, but should it be passed and approved by Trump, Valve and Itch would potentially no longer be beholden to payment processors on what they can sell on their platforms. I'll tell you this. We're already putting out, we're putting irons in the fire. We are reaching out to members of Congress to see if anybody is on top of the story, which is going on for weeks now. As we can see with Kramer's bill, he's addressing the issue of debanking, which has been persistent and horrifying. For many of you may not know, Laura Loomer, one of the most prominent individuals to get debanked. And you ask yourself, why are banks banning political individuals? That's terrifying. Now, what's worrying to me is activist organizations target payment processors because they know what they're doing is unpopular. It's a threat. But let me tell you this, guys. We had an event on Saturday. They canceled us. The venue shut us down because the far left sent them threats or whatever. And so you know what we did? We said no. We did what y'all are doing. We spoke up, we contacted the venue, and we said we won't tolerate censorship. Within 11 hours or so, they brought the event back with an apology. We will win this one. We have won this fight every single step of the way. I'm curious, though, for the conservatives who are also anti-pornography, which I think you're right. I'd be willing to bet many would also still be on the side of anti-censorship because, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword. The right doesn't typically use a cudgel to enforce their will. They try to use arguments, debate, and legislation. They try to win at the Supreme Court. It is always the left that has been finding some subversive way to get what they want ideologically, threat of force. So now this anti-porn feminist group is contacting payment processors under threat of PR damage, or honestly, some people are probably scared for their safety. This is what the left does. The right sits back and complains, and they argue and they say rabble, rabble, and then half the time nothing changes. That kind of sucks. But the left is going to show up with a Molotov cocktail. Here's the point I made a long time ago. We were talking about, like Milo was at Berkeley, for those that remember this one, Milo Yiannopoulos, and the far left showed up and they were firebombing things. And I said, guys, you know why Twitter bans people? Let me tell you this right now. Do you know why Stream and Itch are going to ban these games? Is it because they fear Dave Rubin and a bunch of moderate conservatives, libertarians, and classic liberals showing up with pitchforks and Molotovs? Of course not. The people on the right are going to be like, well, I think a strongly worded campaign should turn this around. In fact, that's the story. They're calling in and saying, well, I just plumb disagree with what you've done, even mentioning how polite they are. Do you think the far left, when they want something, you think they're polite? No, when they get numbers, they beat people, they firebomb things, they smash windows up like we saw in LA. So when these companies here, leftists and feminist groups are basically saying, you don't want to mess with us, they're like, we know what happens next. The right will speak up, but the left will throw a brick through my window. Well, we are going to win this one. If it's legal, man, I don't think you should be shutting it down. This has been the argument the whole time. The argument is that legal speech should be allowed, and that's the direction we've been moving. We've been winning on this front, and ideological authoritarianism should not be taking everything over. And I will wrap it up by saying this. I actually think porn is very bad. I would say philosophically, people should not buy and read porn. Porn addiction is a serious thing that's destroying young men. The answer is not. The answer is not authoritarian lockdowns. The answer is enlightenment. The answer is in cultural development and education and strong leaders, not threat of force against people who don't agree with you. That's never been the reality. We win this one on the debates. We sit down and we have the debate, not Molotovs and bricks. This is just the same old story over and over and over again. There's a lot going on, so we'll follow up with the story, and we are reaching out to Congress to see what the developments are. So smash that like button, share this show with everyone you know. Stay tuned. More to come as we track this story. Among others, there's a bunch of other funny stories with online censorship we'll get to. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. And you can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We'll see you all in the next segment.